So sticking to this now with our experts, Congressman Peter King from the House Committees on Intelligence and Homeland Security, and ABC's aviation consultant Steve Ganyard. And Congressman King, let me begin with you. This is a real frustration for the FBI.
It really is. The fact is the FBI was not asked in. And, you know, these pilots, they should have been the pilot and co-pilot, should have been the focus from the start. That would be ordinary law enforcement, investigatory procedures. The FBI could have been called to help that. Interpol could have been called in, our intelligence agencies. But my understanding is that Malaysia is not really cooperating at all. They're very reluctant to lay what they have out on the table.
But you have been briefed on this. Is everything you heard consistent with what we were just reporting there? The focus is on the pilots. Basically, everyone else on the plane has been looked at. No terrorist connections, according to U.S. officials.
No, there's been no terrorist connections whatsoever. There's been no terrorist chatter. There's nothing out there indicating it's terrorist. Doesn't mean it's not. But so far, nothing has been picked up by the intelligence community from day one. I still have questions about the two Iranians who are on the plane. But again, that could be a side issue. The fact is, nothing has come up indicating a terrorist nexus.
What's your biggest question about the Iranians?
Just the fact that they were there and written off so quickly as having any threat. I mean, why do they have to get on that plane to seek asylum? The fact that it was so easy for them to get on with stolen passports, it just creates a terrorist atmosphere. Having said that, there's nothing showing it. I just wouldn't rule that out now, that's all.
And Steve, we heard from the Malaysians this morning. They're saying that there's equal weight on both this northern and southern search zone for where the plane could have been, but you say it is extremely unlikely that this plane could have gone to the north and over that landmass.
We're being directed that the focus is going to shift to the south. There's good reason to think that, scientific reason that the search needs to be in the south. But if you look at that area, it's still 5 million square miles. It's a near practical impossibility to find a small piece of wreckage in that size.
But do we know enough now to know? I know we can't fully rule out anything, but are we reasonably convinced that the prospect that this plane landed intact on one of those landmass is very far-fetched?
We're being guided to look 1,000 miles off the coast of Western Australia at 7.5 hours into the flight. There's no fuel left on that airplane, and they're 1,000 miles from the closest piece of land.
And you combine that ping 7.5 hours in with the fact that the plane's route was pre-planned, right, before the transponders were turned off, before the two communication systems turned off, and that all but rules out mechanical failure?
3 deliberate actions in the cockpit that would suggest premeditation. This was not an accident.
So what is the next step now for U.S. authorities?
Basically, we have to get involved. We have to use all our intelligence. And I wish there was more FAA, NTSB, FBI involvement. I wish the FBI were over there. If this is going to be a criminal investigation, as far as the pilot and the co-pilot, we should use as much international law enforcement as possible. The FBI is the best at that. But also again, Interpol, a basic unit should be used. Malaysia, for whatever reason, has been resisting. It's obviously something with the pilot and the co-pilot, and that has to be drilled down on.
And I want to drill down on that now with Stephen Ganyard as well. I mean, the other possibility, if the pilot or the co-pilot didn't do this themselves, of course, is the chance that someone got into the cockpit and forced them to do this at gunpoint. But let's talk about that a little bit. Had that happened, wouldn't the pilot have been able to switch the transponder to the hijacked distress signal?
Well, if somebody was looking over his shoulder and knew enough to say, I want to go in this direction, or I want to go to this waypoint, I mean, there's so much here that you would just say, look, this had to have been a trained pilot. Somebody had to know what they were doing. All these things occurred at the handoff between Malaysian and Vietnamese air traffic controllers. They knew that it was this dead zone in there. They knew that they had some time to do all these premeditated actions.
Well, I guess my question there, though, is if there was a hijacker on the plane, wouldn't we have some kind of other indication of distress on that aircraft?
You would, but at this point we just don't. Everything points to one of those two crew members in the cockpit as a premeditated action.
And Congressman King, as far as I understand, they've been able to look back at everyone else on the aircraft, and only perhaps one other person who had even the kind of aviation expertise to know all this.
Yeah, so far nothing is showing up at all. I mean, I agree with the Colonel. This right now has to focus on the pilot and the co-pilot.
And one other thing I was struck by, Colonel Ganyard, by the defense minister this morning. He said this case is so unprecedented, it may change aviation history.
Nothing like it. Nothing, hopefully, ever again will be like it. I think the real concern right now, George, is we have to find those black boxes. This will be forever a mystery unless we find the black boxes on that airplane.
And we have only about 20 days left?
20 days left.
Okay, Congressman King, Stephen Ganyard,
thanks
very much.